Hey guys, Matty Bear here from Diesel Geeks, and today we are doing a diagnostic on a Hilux. So I thought I'd bring you guys with me, show you what we're doing. Maybe you'll learn something, or maybe you'll think I'm an idiot. Either way, let's do it. We have 2013 Hilux. Customer's just bought this one. It's got 208,000 kilometers on it. Had an intake clean out. The thing is immaculate, so it looks to have been very well looked after. But just being new to it, wants to understand, make sure the injectors are okay. Probably bought a little bit too much into injectors fail pistons. But anyway, let's have a look and see what they come up with. Okay, so these are the values that we're going to look mostly at. So you can see the sort of predetermined value that's stored in the ECM is 5.6. Now that's going to go into closed loop mode the moment that we start that up, but that is the midpoint. And so if we start this thing up, and then obviously we've got all our individual feedback values over here. So let's give this thing a kick and see where she goes. Right, a little bit rattly on startup, but that's to be expected. So let's watch these values and see how they move. So we can see number 4 and number 2 having a bit of a dance here and taking a bit of a jump, which is not that bad. Let's see where they end up. Usually when you do this, but if they're a long way out, while it's still zero and working its way to the correction point, you'll actually see the gear stick kick around a little bit, but aircon's on, which is not ideal. Basically what ends up happening, especially with automatics, right, and same with the aircon, you don't want to add any artificial load. So if you add that additional load, the injection volume is going to go up, but then so is the injector feedback value for individual cylinders. So the way that this effectively works is that we have our midpoint over here, and then this here is an addition or subtraction from that value. So this injector, based upon the code, is injecting, what's it going to be, 4.2, and this one here is going to be injecting 7 millimeters cubic based on its individual feedback values. Now another one that we usually watch quite closely, but we only have a value for when it's warm. I don't have a cold value because cold in Darwin is not the same as cold in Davenport, if you know what I mean. So I use a main injection period of around 550 microseconds is where it will be when it's warm and fully up to temperature with no auxiliary loads. And so we can see here at the moment it's at 10.6. That's just a factor of the low coolant temp and the fact that everything's a bit tight and the oil's a bit thick and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, let's warm her up a little bit and see where she ends up. Now another good one here to watch is fuel pressure. So that at the moment is fluctuating. I've seen 350, 318 seems to have been the low value. No always use bloody PSI. We always used to work on about a 900 PSI threshold. So I'll have to go back and actually fucking calculate that. It's, what is it at the moment? It's about 30 bar variation, 18 to 48. So fucking quick maths, that's about 500 PSI. So that's not too bad. It's going to be worse when it's cold, the way that dances around, just because again, whilst it's cold, the tolerance between the SCV piston and the SCV body is going to be its tightest and the fuel is going to be its thickest. And so, yeah, this is the best time to have a look at that. All right, so we've seen number 2 move all the way out to 2.2, which is what, 2.4. So it's not knocky, but there's a tiny tinge of a rattle there at the minute, but Jesus, I'm being picky, but there's no cold knock to it, even though the values are a little bit out. You see the main injection period's coming down already. Number 2 is on the move. See our injection volume a little while ago was 10, now it's 8. I actually think this one's going to be okay for a total injection volume when it settles down. Anyway, all right, I might take this thing for a bit of a drive and see where we end up. So just quickly, I've just here configured this to have a look at target and actual, so we can see the minimum and maximum, and then, yeah, we can go for a quick drive and analyze this as well, just to make sure it's doing what it wants to do. Suction control valves moving around a little bit, but it's not, honestly, it's not too bad really. It's a little bit, and we can see that number 2 has moved out, but when I came back to idle just there for a second, it was a little bit rattly. So I reckon now the temperature's come up and now that cylinder's not doing its thing. If we sit here for a second, this is going to come right back and you hear it tap tap tapping away at idle. It usually takes about 30 seconds before it'll actually kick in. No, it's getting worse. Okay, our injection volumes come right down, but you see just down here we're at 6.3. now we're still not up to temp yet, so I actually think the overall injection volume for these is pretty good. Yeah, okay, 2's got dramas. Interesting. Doesn't cold knock, but at idle this thing's got dramas. Tap tap tap, you can hear it. Okay, well, interesting. This thing has been tuned. If we have a look at overall injection volume, I reckon we're going to see when we give it a bit of a light up that this will go well beyond the 75 that it should be. Number 2's gone all the way out to 5 now. As soon as I got in it, I could tell it had a HD clutch in it. Now, this injection volume, for a Hilux is going to be somewhere between 72 and 77, depending on the tune and the year and the model. And then if we're talking about Prado, this is going to be 90, 92, right? And so if you're ever diagnosing a low power problem, I always start here. Now, a low power problem can be either a sensor, and so there's a sensor fault, the ECU doesn't see the air, or it thinks that there's some sort of limitation based on its emissions mapping, and so it doesn't try to inject the fuel. But then there's another type of mechanical type of issue where the ECU is trying to do it, but it won't make the horsepower. And so the easiest way to find out is to have a look at this, go through the numbers, understand what the numbers are. So maybe if we saw this at a low power problem and this was 40, well then we know we're dealing with like a MAF sensor or a MAP sensor or a problem along those ways, because the ECU is limiting the fuel because it doesn't think it has the air, for example. But in this instance, we can see here the maximum volume over there is 107. So it's actually got not just a tune in it, but a reasonably aggressive tune as well. It drives really well. And so on the way back, we'll just double check the MAF and the boost numbers just to make sure that the tune hasn't gone too high. But you can see here from the rail pressure numbers, it actually looks like it's pretty stock and they've left that alone. So anyway, interesting. The split screen, we can see number 2 has come back. So it was 5 a minute ago, and now it's come all the way back. Not all the way back, but back enough. And it's not knocking at idle. One last thing. This bloody video is going to go forever. But anyway, one last thing. Generally speaking, right, we see a 7780 or a 8290, so the 13 or 11 code injectors. As these things age, this number here is going to go way out. So it'll go to like 9, 10, 11. And that's usually in line with when we see seizure-related marks inside the injector. And so the injector's becoming a little bit lazy at low rail pressure, which idle is. And so the ECU has to hold the injector that's open a lot longer in order to get the fuel into the cylinder, right? The newer ones with the full DLC injectors are not the same, however. And so, like, say, for example, yeah, the rest of these are okay. Like, number 4 is going to be a sympathy correction for number 2 here. But so number 2 is really the only issue. But when we're looking at an early model car, this injection volume is going to be really high. And so maybe we can change the 1, but that 1's going to be 6, the others are going to be 10. And so the correction factors are never going to come back if we don't change the whole set. Where this one might be one where you could get away with just changing 1. Now we know 5.6, the ECU tells us, we're at 6.5, 6.3, I would say at an average. I see it come down every so often. Yeah, probably 6.6 is the average. So we are a little bit off. So we know if we're going to put this one in, it's going to go straight to a -1, even if everything else is perfect. But that's probably not a bad outcome, and you're probably not going to notice. But anyway, I'll discuss that with the customer. It's one of those ones where maybe it's just worth spending the money to do the set properly, do it once. But a lot of the time we don't recommend doing just one-offs, and it's this injection volume and the fact that they're all worn out, but they've all worn out in a somewhat consistent way is the reason why we don't do that. But this is one of the rare ones we may get away with. To make sure that this tune is safe, now that we know that there's one in there and it's a little bit aggressive, we'll, on the drive home, we'll light her up a little bit. We'll see what the boost pressure is doing, what the target VNT position is, and the MAF, and make sure that it's all okay. And then if that's all good, go back and finalize our report and talk to the customer. It's back to the yard, pulled over. I don't want to try to film this shit while we're driving. VNT is moving really well. You'll see the minimum number's quite low, but that's just because the extra fuel that's going in, they need to be able to open the VNT to boost control. I didn't wind it all the way out, but we've got about 3.3 or somewhere thereabouts. Maximum boost was 215 kPa, so that's going to be about 16 pounds, so that's pretty safe as well. Air injection quantity looks good, so yeah, all of that stuff looks great. Okay, so a few surprises there. We have the tune that I don't think the customer knows about, the heavy duty clutch that I don't think he knows about, but then also number 2, which I don't think he knows about. So anyway, interesting, very informative. That's why we like to do these things, and we like to do them very in depth. We've done about an 8-9k drive, got everything up to temperature, but we like to go through things thoroughly. And then of course when we see something else, it's not like, oh, okay, we're just here to diagnose injectors. It's like, no, we're here to have a look at the car. And so when we found some other things out, we thought we'd better go down that rabbit hole and make sure they're all okay, so the customer gets a good end result. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, or maybe not.